These are the normal cards that are introduced within the new set. Vilepawn Archfiend is an Earth Attribute level 2 Fiend type effect monster with 1200 attack and 200 defense. The effect is, once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 500 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets this card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect. If you roll a 3, and if you do, destroy that card. Your opponent's monsters cannot attack any Archfiend monsters you control, except Vilepawn Archfiend. This is one of the dice roll cards that are within the Archfiend archetype. Very old. It was used by the Shadow Rider, which was Titan, who was the 5th Shadow Rider, and he was also one of the first duelists that Jaden actually faced off as he had to rescue Alexis Rhodes. It is quite weak. It is a level 2, so you can't expect it to be that strong for 1200 points. But to keep it on the field each and every one of your turns, you are having to pay 500 life points. That's why even if you are going to run this, it would ideally be either 1 or 2. You would want to use it as part of a tribute. For the tribute summon of something like the Skull Archfiend of Lightning or a Summon Skull style of card. When an opponent tries to target this card by a card effect, and why would you? You can negate that effect provided you roll a 3. It's very specific, as if you get any other number, then that effect doesn't work. It also forces your opponent monsters to attack into this before they go into any of your other Archfiend monsters, so it actually at least acts as a bit of a guard for your other monsters. Shadow Knight Archfiend is a Wind Attribute level 4 Fiend type effect monster with 2000 attack and 1600 defense. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 900 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets its card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect if you roll a 3, and if you do, destroy that card. Any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is halved. It has decent attack points and defense points for a level 4 monster. 2000 attack is fine, but you are having to pay each and every one of your standby phases 900 life points, or you lose this card in exchange. That type of life point cost isn't justified for this, especially since its own protection effect means that unless you roll a 3, it doesn't have that shielding. It also, whenever it does battle damage, it's half, so you're not even doing a decent amount of damage to your opponent by having this card on the field, and is over time going to cost you a lot more in life points than it's going to benefit you in battle damage to the opponent. Even think, when this card does direct damage to the opponent, it's only 1000 life points that they take. Dark Bishop Archfiend is a Water Attribute level 3 Fiend type effect monster. It has 300 attack and 1400 defense. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 500 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets an Archfiend monster you control, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect. If you roll a 1, 3 or a 6, and if you do, destroy that card. This card really doesn't do too much in terms of any additional effects. More so what it does is it protects the rest of your Archfiend monsters, because so long as one of them is targeted by an ability, so long as you roll either the 1, the 3 or the 6, it protects those cards. Whereas with the other 2 that were mentioned, you have to only run a straight 3. So this gives you a 50% chance of protection as opposed to a 1 in 6, which is, so that's a 16.6 recurring percent chance of being protected. It is extremely weak, and you would need to find a way of protecting this card, given most even level 2s can get over that these days. It is also a bit of a steep cost to keep on the field, as you are having to pay 500 life points during each of your standby phases. Over time, not only is this impacting you, but if you have other Archfiends on the field that you are protecting by having this card, that is going to get you to a game loss very quickly, or to losing those monsters you have on the field, as you can no longer pay the life points necessary to maintain those cards. Desrook Archfiend is a light attribute level 3 Fiend type effect monster. It has 1100 attack and 1800 defense. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 500 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets this card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect if you roll a 3, and if you do, destroy that card. When a Terror King Archfiend you control is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, even during the damage step, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, then target that Terror King Archfiend in your graveyard, special summon it. The maintenance cost on this card is quite steep, 500 life points, given that's every one of your turns. It does have decent defense points at 1,800 for a level 3, so it can actually protect itself, but it only protects itself from sort of effects if you roll a 3, so that only gives you a 16.6% recurring chance of protecting it. This is also very niche when it comes to its own separate effect, as it relies on you having a Terror King Archfiend on your field, and that has to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard, so it has to meet multiple different levels of effects. It has to be a very specifically named monster that it has to protect. The card also has to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard, so being destroyed is its own thing. There are plenty of cards that either send to the graveyard, return to the hand, return to the deck, which will prevent this effect from going off. And the third element, it has to be sent to the graveyard. There are so many ways of returning to the hand, to the deck, or actually banished, that you might not even be able to use this recovery effect. Even if you do and you can get the Terror King Archfiend back onto your field, you are still going to have to give up this card, and this card has to be sent from the hand to the graveyard. It can't be both the hand and the field. Otherwise, I would argue there's a little bit more flexibility to this, but as it is, it's very restrictive. Infernal Queen Archfiend is a fire attribute level 4 fiend type effect monster. It has 900 attack and 1500 defense. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 500 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets this card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect. If you roll a 2 or a 5, and if you do, destroy that card. Once per turn during the standby phase, you can target one Archfiend monster on the field. It gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. The maintenance cost on this, again, is another 500 life points. That tends to be the lowest cost you can pay, and this has to be used. As soon as an effect is activated that targets this card, you can either, if you roll a 2 or a 5, then that effect is negated, so it gives you a 2 out of 6 chance. That's a third, which is 33.3% recurring. So it does have more of a protection than a lot of the cards. And during each of your standby phases, you're able to just target an Archfiend monster on the field, and it gains 1000 attack until the end of the turn. That's also quite useful, but it only boosts those monsters during your standby phases. So the risk with that is keeping this card on the field, as you're only getting your standby phase the next turn. You're having to wait up until your opponent's finished all of their turn before using this ability, which can be quite challenging. Terror King Archfiend is a Dark Attribute level 4 Fiend type effect monster. It has 2000 attack and 1500 defense. It can be normal summoned or flip summoned unless you control an Archfiend monster. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 800 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets this card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect if you roll a 2 or 5, and if you do, destroy that card. Negate the effects of effect monsters destroyed by battle with this card, including in the graveyard. This is not able to be normal summoned or flip summoned unless you already have an Archfiend existing on your field, so there's already a weakness. The maintenance cost on this is 800 life points, which is quite steep, as if you don't have a consistent field or means of recovery of life points, this has a maximum of, 9 turns being on the field before you'd have to give this up. This also has a level of protection similar to the Infernal Queen Archfiend, in that rolling a 2 or a 5 can protect this card and negate that other card's effect, but this is still only a 33.33 recurring percent protection. The other part of the effect, as soon as this card destroys an effect monster by battle, it shuts down that ability, whether that's actually in the battle phase itself or as that monster goes into the graveyard. So there is a protection to it. It's similar to the Ancient Gear Beast with that effect. That makes sense, but it's a little bit better that it also includes any way of it being destroyed by battle through its own battle. The Skull Archfiend of Lightning is a Dark Attribute level 6 Fiend type effect monster with a 2500 attack and a 1200 defense. Once per turn during your standby phase, you must pay 500 life points. This is not optional, or this card is destroyed. When resolving an opponent's card effect that targets this card, roll a 6-sided die and negate that effect if you roll a 1, a 3, or a 6, and if you do, destroy that card. This is probably one of the more powerful Archfiend monsters you have. It has 2500 attack and mirrors that of the Summoned Skull, even within its artwork. It does have a 500 life point cost, but that's towards the lower end of it, and it does have its own protection from being targeted by card effects, so long as you run it at a 1, a 3, or a 6. So that gives you a 50-50 shot of keeping this card on the field. This was the original Titan's boss monster before he became a Shadow Rider. Archfiend General is a Dark Attribute level 4 Fiend type effect monster, 2100 attack and 800 defense. You can discard this card to the graveyard, add a 1 Pandemonium from your deck to your hand. If Pandemonium is not on the field, destroy this card. There were a series of these field spell searching types of cards which were introduced quite a while ago within Yugioh that allow you to find whatever of these cards. There are, for example, Elemental Hero Captain Gold is very similar in that it searches for Skyscraper and also gets destroyed if Skyscraper isn't on the field when it's on the field. And there is another one which is specifically for Sanctuary in the Sky that also has that destruction based effect. This is fine as a searcher for the field spell, but I suppose since terraforming often gets limited or semi-limited, it's a way of getting the specific card that you need. Only concern as well is, with the Archfiend archetype, there are several different field spells they can rely upon, and this is only naming Pandemonium as specifically the one that you can target and receive. Mist Archfiend is a Dark Attribute level 5 Fiend type effect monster, 2400 attack and 0 defense. Normal summon this card without tributing. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card was summoned this way, destroy this card, and if you do, take 1000 points of damage. If summoned properly, then actually the negative part of the effect doesn't work, and I think that's fine given it's a level 5, it just needs the 1 tribute. 2400 points is sufficient to get over a lot of your opponent's weaker level monsters, but you can also normal summon this card without tributing. In doing that, you're hopefully able to clear one of your opponent's cards, or if you can use it as part of a link material, that's also an option. But you need to do this before the end phase, as once it's been summoned this way, not only is it destroyed, but you also take 1000 points of damage, so you're losing that field presence as well as your life points advantage. Archfiend Giant is a Dark Attribute level 6 Fiend type effect monster with 2400 attack and 1600 defense. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by a card effect, you can pay 500 life points instead. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. If this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Archfiend monster from your hand. It's quite decent for a level 6 as it only needs the 1 tribute. 2400 attack points isn't too bad, provided this card is on the field and it's destroyed by a card effect. Just by you are able to pay 500 life points instead. This provides it with a level of card effect protection, but the downside is then your opponent is just going to go over this card with battle. This effect can only be activated once while this card is face up on the field, so you're also limited to the only time it can be used. But if this card happens to be destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can then special summon any of your Archfiend monsters from your hand, provided they don't have any sort of limitations to them. That is fine, but I'm sure your opponent will read that effect and know either to banish this card to prevent it from being sent to the graveyard to trigger off this effect, or to return the card either to the hand or back to the deck before it can actually trigger off the secondary ability. Deus Ex Crawler is an Earth Attribute level 9 insect flip effect monster with 2000 attack and 3000 defense. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this face down monster, as a quick effect you can change this card to face up defense position, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. After this card was flipped face up, while it is in the monster zone, negate all monster effects activated on your opponent's field. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add from your deck to your hand one level 9 monster with a different original type and attribute in this card. You can only use this effect of Deus Ex Crawler once per turn. This has 2000 attack and 3000 defense, so it is more defensive monster, which is typical for anything that has any sort of flip effect. As soon as your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this card, you're able to change this to face up defense position. That effect gets negated and you're able to destroy that card. Once this has been flipped face up and it's in the main monster zone, you can then negate all monster effects activated on your opponent's field. So it's a way of perma shutting down your opponent's monsters. And if this happens to be destroyed by battle of card effect, you're able to search from your deck to your hand a level 9 monster, provided it doesn't have the typing and the attribute of this card. So long as it's not an earth attribute or an insect type, you're fine, which is actually works well with the any crafts, because I believe the higher level monsters are level 9 and they are light attribute. This is a useful protection type of card, especially if you're waiting on getting certain cards before responding to your opponent. Springen's Brothers is a fire attribute level 4 machine type effect monster with 300 attack and 1800 defense. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target one Springen's monster in your graveyard except Springen's Brothers, special summon it in defense position. If this card is in your hand, field or graveyard, you can target one Springen's Xyz monster you control, attach this card to it as material. You can only use each effect of Springen's Brothers once per turn. This is more of a defensive type of card, but it's fine for what it's needed. As soon as this is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you're able to just choose a Springen's monster in the graveyard and it gets special summoned, so long as it's not another copy of itself. As long as this card is in your hand, field or graveyard, you're able to choose a Springen's Xyz monster, and this card can become a material. So not only can it fuel up your Springen's Xyz monsters, but it also has some graveyard-based synergy with your other Springen's monsters. Turbo Tainted Hot Rod GT19 is a fire attribute level 3 machine type flip effect monster. It's a tuner with 500 attack and 1500 defense. The monster effect, Flip, you can declare a level from 1 to 9. This card becomes that level until the end of this turn. After this card has been flipped face up during any main phase, as a quick effect, you can target one other face up monster on either field. Immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon one monster using only this card and that target. You can only use one Turbo Tainted Hot Rod GT19 effect per turn and only once that turn. This is able to adjust its levels so you are able to go into a variety of different synchro monsters more readily, and this can also be synchro summoning pretty much as soon as it's flipped face up, so it does allow for an Excel synchro style of play. It is only allowed to use this in conjunction with one other monster you have on your field. So if you are trying to summon synchro monsters that happen to need 2 of a non-tuner, that's not actually going to work for this type of ability. At least it's a way of responding to your opponent within their turn. Berserk Archfiend is a Dart attribute level 6 Fiend type effect monster with 2000 attack and 0 defense. You can target up to 2 face-up monsters you control, including a Fiend monster, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, destroy those monsters. You can only use this effect of Berserk Archfiend once per turn. When a monster is destroyed by this card's effect, you can target face-up monsters your opponent controls equal to the number destroyed. This card gains attack to their combined original attack until the end of your next turn. With it having 2000 attack, it's fine, although that's a little bit weak for a level 6, but you can target 2 face-up monsters you control. It has to include at least 1 Fiend type monster. You are then able to special summon this card and destroy those monsters. That's fine because if they've got a destruction based effect, then those trigger off. Even if not, then those cards are in the graveyard for you to recover for later. When a monster is destroyed by this card's effect, you are able to target face up monsters your opponent controls equivalent to the number destroyed, and this card gains attack equal to their combined original attack until the end of your next turn. So it does also boost itself up depending on what you destroy. The stronger the monsters you destroy, the stronger this card becomes. This is very battle centric, but the problem with that is it's a very straightforward strategy. If your opponent has anything that can block those type of attacks, or a way of disrupting your opponent, you from using this card, even from going and reaching the battle phase, then it will waste this card and its effect, trading off 2 cards for the price of 1. Duke Archfiend is a water attribute level 4 Fiend type effect monster. It has 0 attack and 2000 defense. It gains attack equal to its level times 200. You can only use each of the following effects of Duke Archfiend once per turn. You can target one face-up monster you control that has a level, send one Archfiend monster from your deck to the graveyard except Duke Archfiend. And if you do, increase that monster's level by the level of the sent monster. When you ritual summon a monster is destroyed by battle, this card is in the graveyard, you can special summon this card. The first part of the ability allows this card to gain attack equal to its level times 200, so it will initially start off with 800 points, but you're able to target a face-up monster you control that has a level. You then send an Archfiend monster from your deck to graveyard, so it is a Foolish Burial type of ability, except another copy of itself. And if you do, this card's monster's level increases by the level of the sent monster. So the higher level of the monster you send, the more powerful this card becomes. Think of sending a level 8 monster to the graveyard. This card then becomes a level 12, and that will become a 2400 attack monster. The longer you can keep this card around, the more powerful it can actually become, because each of those effects can be used once per turn. Provided a ritual monster is destroyed by battle and this card is already in the graveyard, this card has the ability to recover itself, but that's similar to some of the other style of cards which are based on the ritual Archfiend Emperor and Archfiend Matriarch. Inato Enneacraft Okaniri is an Earth Attribute level 1 machine type pendulum flip effect monster with 100 attack and 1000 defense. Pendulum scale is 0, and the pendulum effect, each time a monster is flipped face up, place 1 EC counter on this card. You can pay 900 life points to reveal 3 Enneacraft cards from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks 1 for you to add to your hand. Shuffle the rest into the deck. You can only use this effect of Inato Enneacraft Okaniri once per turn. The flip effect on the monster ability is to shuffle up to 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard and or banishment into the deck. When your opponent activates a card effect in the graveyard or banishment, as a quick effect you can change this face down card to face up defense position, add 1 Enneacraft card from your deck to your hand, reveal this card in your hand, special summon 1 monster from your hand in face down defense position. You cannot special summon this turn you activate this effect except in face down defense position. So this is similar to the other Enneacraft monsters, the smaller ones, in having the same stat lineups on them and the same pendulum scale of 0. The pendulum effect allows every time a monster is flipped face up, be that yours or your opponent's, to generate an EC counter on this card. With the Enneapolis, that field spell will take away each of your EC counters per turn, and your opponent will be dealt 900 points of damage for each EC counter they had removed. So if you can actually get 9 counters on the card, that'll be enough to wipe out your opponent's life points. In addition, by paying 900 life points, you get to reveal 3 Enneacraft cards from your deck. Your opponent then randomly chooses 1 for you to add to your hand. The rest gets shuffled back into the deck. If you have multiple copies of the same card, then that can actually force your opponent to search for the card that you want. Even in the later stages of the game, and you don't get that choice, you'll still be able to get and search for a decent level of cards, depending on the situation. With the monster effect, its flip effect allows you to shuffle 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard and or banishment back into the deck, which is perfect as it's often more difficult for your opponent to then search for those cards to recover them and use them for their advantage. Another effect is, as soon as the opponent activates a card or effect in the graveyard or banishment, by changing this card from face down to face up defense position, you're able to search for an Enneacraft card from your deck to your hand. That's useful as that also provides you with additional searching capabilities. The last part of the effect allows you just to special summon itself another copy of an Enneacraft card or another monster from your hand to face down defense position just by revealing this card, which will stop you from eating up your normal summon set for the turn. Trito Enneacraft Expertise is an Earth Attribute level 1 machine type pendulum flip effect monster. It has 100 attack and 1000 defense. The pendulum scale is 0, and the pendulum effect, each time a monster is flipped face up, place 1 EC counter on this card. You can pay 900 life points, reveal 3 Enneacraft cards from your deck. Your opponent randomly picks 1 for you to add to your hand. Shuffle the rest into the deck. You can only use this effect of Trito Enneacraft Expertise once per turn. The monster effect is to flip, destroy 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls, and if you do, special summon 1 monster from your hand in face down defense position. When your opponent activates a card or effect that includes an effect that sets a card, as a quick effect you can change this face down card to face up defense position, add 1 Enneacraft card from your deck to your hand. You can reveal this card in your hand, special summon 1 monster from your hand in face down defense position. You cannot special summon the turn you activate this effect, except in face down defense position. Like all the other smaller ones, they have the same stat lineup, typing, attribute, and the fact that they're all pendulum scales of 0. Pendulum effect, each time a monster is flipped face up, you just generate a EC counter. This allows you, when you pair it with Iniopolis, to burn your opponent's life points as it removes those counters, all of them at the end phase. 900 points times the number of counters removed, so if your opponent has 8,000 or less life points, then it is going to take you as little as 9 of those counters to work to activate and to defeat your opponent. By paying 900 life points, reveal 3 Enneacraft cards from your deck, so it can be either your spells or your monsters, as they currently don't have trap cards for the archetype. The opponent is forced to choose one of them for you to add to your hand, and the remainder gets shuffled back into the deck. The idea of this is if you can get 3 copies of the same card, it forces your opponent to just give you what you want, even if it's at the later stages of the game and you can't get that. All of the Enneacraft archetype monsters synergize very well together, and so whichever one you get given, you tend to be able to use anyway. The other cards get shuffled back into the deck, but given that you're constantly going to be shuffling through these abilities, means you're going to reach those cards eventually. With the monster effect, its effect is to destroy a spell or trap card your opponent controls. That's decent, as that's the only dedicated, I think, spell and trap destruction support within the archetype, and then you get to special summon a monster from your hand in face down first position, so it could be any of your monsters, it doesn't have to be Enneacraft archetype specific. When your opponent activates a card effect, that includes an effect that sets a card. Just by changing this card from face down to face up defense position, you can then search for an Enneacraft card from your deck to your hand, so this actually responds to whenever your opponent's doing anything. And just by revealing this card, you can then choose to special summon either itself, another Enneacraft archetypal card, or another monster from your hand in face down defense position. Pandemonium is a field spell card. Neither player has to pay life points during the standby phase for Archfiend monsters. When an Archfiend monster is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, except by battle, its owner can add 1 Archfiend monster from their deck to their hand with a lower level than the destroyed card. This is necessary for the Archfiend archetype, as this negates the life point cost effects required from Skull Archfiend of Lightning or any of the other ones mentioned previously. This also has the benefit of, as soon as an Archfiend monster is destroyed and sent to the graveyard by effectively card effects, as it's just restricted outside of battle, you can then add an Archfiend monster from the deck to the hand. It does have to be a lower level, but if you start off from one of the higher level ones, then that's consistently going to give you at least something. Throne of the Archfiends is a ritual spell card. The effect is to ritual summon 1 Archfiend ritual monster from your hand, face up extra deck, graveyard or banishment by attributing monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal or exceed its level. During the standby phase, if you have Archfiend Emperor in your face up extra deck, you can add this card from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. You can only use this effect of Throne of the Archfiends once per turn. The effect is really good for a ritual type of card. You just get to ritual summon any Archfiend ritual monster. It can be from the hand or face up extra deck, graveyard or banishment, so you do have pretty much the pick of the place, and it does have to tribute in monsters from either the hand or the field, with the levels equaling or exceeding the level, so it can only be the hand or the field, it can't be a combination of both. And provided you have an Archfiend Emperor in your face up extra deck, this card is able to be recovered from either the graveyard or the banishment straight back to the hand, so you can then go into further ritual summons throughout the turns. A lot of new ritual spell cards have this recoverability, or have multiple versions of itself in one form or another, just so that they can work within the deck. Necros is an example of that. Reverse Reuse is a normal trap card. Target up to 2 flip monsters in your graveyard, special summon them to your opponent's field, face up or face down defense position. I don't necessarily understand why you help your opponent in with Enneacrafts. They don't really work towards that. It's useful for Minigal cards. They work negatively on your opponent if they happen to be on your opponent's field. That's ideally where I think this has some benefit for you. Call of the Archfiend is a continuous trap card. You can target 1 level 5 or higher Fiend monster in your graveyard, discard 1 Fiend monster, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster. You can only use the effect of Call of the Archfiend once per turn. The effect allows you to bring out a higher level Fiend monster from your graveyard just by discarding a Fiend monster. It can be useful against some of your Dark World monsters because they have discard based effects, but often they are reliant on your opponent doing things rather than you doing anything. You are bringing out high level monsters, and since this is a reoccurring special summon, you can get back any field domination that you need. Springen's Call is a normal trap card. Target one Springen's monster or Fallen or Varbaz in your graveyard. Special summon it. During the main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and one fusion monster from your graveyard. Then target one Springen's Xyz monster you control, attach one fusion monster that lists Fallen or Varbaz as material from your etch deck to that monster as material. You can only use each effect of Springen's Call once per turn. The first part of the effect allows you to choose a Springen's monster or a Fallen or Varbaz, and it gets special summoned. And during the main phase, provided it's not on the same turn it's sent to the graveyard, by banishing this card and a fusion monster from your graveyard, you're able to bring out a Springen's Xyz monster and attach another material from it onto that monster. So that's actually quite useful to reset types of abilities. Quadogmatica Beast is a normal trap card. Target one monster in your graveyard or banishment sent to the graveyard, one monster from your etch deck, or one Dogmatica monster from your deck with attack greater than or equal to that target. And if you do, special summon that target. Until the end of your next turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the etch deck. You can only activate one Quadogmatica Beast per turn. The effect allows you to choose a monster in your graveyard or banishment, and it's sent to the graveyard, one monster from the etch deck, so either that or a Dogmatica monster, with attack that has to be higher than target, and then you get to re-special summon that target. This allows you to pretty much do what you need to in terms of recovery, but it does restrict you from special summoning from the etch deck until the end of your next turn, so you are waiting really 2 turns, which can be a lot of a downside. But the Dogmatica archetype doesn't rely heavily on extra deck monsters, so it's going to be less of a problem than if your opponent wants to use it. Archfiend Playtime is a normal trap card. Special summon one level 7 or lower Archfiend monster from your hand or deck. Or if you have an Archfiend Ritual monster or in your face-up etch deck, you can special summon up to 1 each of Royal Archfiend, Duke Archfiend, and Highness Archfiend from your hand or deck instead. You can only activate 1 Archfiend Playtime per turn. The first part of the effect just allows you to special summon a level 7 or lower Archfiend monster from your hand or deck, so that's actually quite useful as a way of just instantly bringing cards out when you need them. And there isn't really any limitations to it. But if you already have an Archfiend Ritual monster in your face-up etch deck, you can choose to actually bring out 3 monsters. The Royal Archfiend, Duke Archfiend, and a Highness Archfiend. Each of those is quite powerful in its own regards because they work very much with the new Ritual Archfiend support. Each of them can be recovered if a Ritual monster happens to be destroyed and they are in the graveyard. One has an ability to boost attack points, one has the ability to search for other Archfiends, and one has a recovery ability on it. Archfiend's Fervor is a continuous trap card. If you control an Archfiend Ritual monster in your extra monster zone, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn. If this card is banished from the hand or field, you can add 1 Archfiend card from your deck to your hand, except Archfiend's Fervor. You can only use each effect of Archfiend's Fervor once per turn. The first part of the effect, so long as you've got an Archfiend Ritual monster in the extra monster zone, you're able to suddenly negate a face-up card your opponent controls, be that a spell, a trap, or a monster effect, and that can be useful especially if your opponent is running Floodgate trap style of cards, as this will help you to prevent you from being limited from summoning. You are also, once this card is banished from the hand or field, able to search for an Archfiend card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, and that can be quite useful. So we've now had the full list of the cards within this set. Personally for me, I'm very interested in most of these cards anyway. I do think they're quite useful for what they need to be, and I definitely think that there's enough access point for people who are either not familiar with Archfiends or want to learn how to use the NA-Craft archetype to get an understanding. I'd love to know what you think of the archetype in the round, just your overall opinion in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video, it really helps support the channel, and if you can watch another video at the end screen, that would be great as well. Thank you.